So quickly, we've seen our outline is this: Great Commission, and then we have Pentecost, this momentous day when the Shekinah glory comes and dwells within the church. And then what we see is we're going to see the movement in Jerusalem. At the stoning of Stephen, that movement will then spread out to Judea and Samaria. Look at page 197. The background of the witnessing in Judea and Samaria begins with the persecution after the killing of Stephen. And it says, devout men buried Stephen and made great lamentation over him. But Saul, now we're going to come back to him, Saul was ravaging the church, and entering house after house, he dragged off men and women and committed them to prison. Now those who were scattered went about. Notice, here's the opposition, but the response is, even in being scattered, they went out preaching the word. Just as a quick timeout. I say this as an American living in America, in the Western culture. We are living in a post-Christian culture now, where there's a faint memory of this idea called Christianity, but it's been confused and muddled, and now we live in a post-Christian world where most people aren't growing up with this sort of commitment to Christianity in our country. And as a result, Christianity is very misunderstood. I think we're going to enter into a period where Christianity will be so misunderstood that it will begin to be marginalized. We're kind of seeing it now, especially in the younger generations, where it will be marginalized to the extremes or to the walls. And we have to be okay with that. While it may pain us, we have to understand that it has been through persecution that the church has fought back against the powers of sin and darkness. We demonstrate that there is a king worth suffering and living for and dying for when we image back the suffering of Jesus to our world, when we fight that power of darkness by trying to amass that kind of power. It only leads to us ruining our witness. It leads to us ruining this picture of Jesus. And so while our culture may move into a direction of even openly persecuting Christianity, being hostile to Christianity, we welcome it, not because we want to suffer, not because we seek suffering, but because we recognize that this is how the gospel's always spread. And we're going to see, it begins, we see this preaching in Samaria. Now remember, the Samaritans are the descendants of the Assyrian Empire's foreign policies. They sent out all the people in the northern tribes of Israel. They sent thousands of them out and resettled people from all over the nations in this place called Samaria, northern Israel. And the descendants of those people became known as the Samaritans, these half-breeds, who the Jews did not respect. They compromised, they intermarried, they lost their faith, they lost their religion. And yet the gospel will break through in Samaria. And here's what's important. Look at Acts 8:14-17. This is why, by the way, the Holy Spirit keeps demonstrating like a billboard or flashing lights that He really is going out into Samaria. God really is going out into the world. And to do that, the Spirit has to just almost make it really obvious. And that's what's going on when these Samaritans, and we're going to see with Cornelius in a minute, this Gentile received the Spirit. It's as if the Spirit is saying, yeah, this is how I'm working now. Yeah, it's happening. Get on board. We're going out to Gentiles. We're going out to Samaritans. And that's what happens when Peter and John come. The Samaritans, they've received the gospel, but now the Spirit demonstrates that indeed that's how He is working. The preaching will go out to an Ethiopian eunuch, and then we're going to see the conversion of Saul. Saul is on the Damascus road, and he experiences an encounter with the resurrected Jesus. And forever his life, and we might even say the future direction of the church, is totally different. Look at his call on page 198. He's called much like the prophets we saw in the Old Testament were called. He is sent to a person called Ananias. And you can look at the story in Acts chapter 9. Saul encounters Jesus, and he's sent to a person in Damascus of Syria, a guy called Ananias' house. And Ananias, he's a follower of Jesus, and he knows that Saul's this bad dude who's been killing Christians. He's been killing those that are following Jesus. And so Ananias has his confusion. Really, you want me to welcome that dude in? And look at what he says. He says, Lord, I've heard from many about this guy, how much evil he's done to your saints. And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all who call on your name. He's probably going to come here to kill us. Are you sure this is what you want to do, God? But the Lord said to him, go and receive him, for he is, and here's what we're noticing, a chosen instrument to carry my name, circle it, before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel. Here's the idea. This Jew of Jews, Hebrew of Hebrews, this zealot Pharisee will now be God's chosen instrument to take the message of Israel's Messiah out to the Gentiles. And it's this radical flip on its head of everything you would expect. And here we see the amazingness of God to intersect His grace with individuals' lives from Jerusalem to Judea and Samaria to the ends of the earth and all the way to Arkansas, to you and to me. And then we see our summary on letter D, Acts 9. So the church throughout all Judea and now Galilee and Samaria had peace and was being built up. And walking in the fear of the Lord and in the comfort of the Holy Spirit, it multiplied. You can see these summary insights that Luke gives us. It's almost as if Luke has to pause and say, yeah, look at what the Holy Spirit is doing in blessing the nations, going out from Jerusalem. Look at how He's working, and He summarizes it frequently in the book. It's almost as if we have to stop and pause and see it. And with that, we'll look at the missionary journeys of Paul and how the story unfolds from there to the Gentile world.